And
Yep.
every time I walked by to go to the bathroom or whatever, this dude would just be like, "Hey man, what's going on?" or whatever. And I'd just be like, "Oh, hey, bud." It wasn't until we were at the show that I finally figured it out.
You figured out it was him.
Yeah. My wife thinks Chuck is cool and funny because of that one thing.
Because of that
and I
one
keep
thing.
telling her, no, he blows. Like he's a shitty person. But she's always like, no, that's the funniest thing I've ever seen. But whatever.
Chuck is a very interesting person indeed.
Yeah, interesting. Like when you say it, like you say, "Oh, that's interesting." It means that you hate it, and it's
that's just your interpretation of it, Erik.
Of Chuck, or just the term interesting?
The term interesting.
Yeah, right.
When I say
the same way about Chuck.
Yeah, exactly. Everyone feels the same way about Chuck. He definitely is horrible, isn't he?
The worst.
The worst. The absolute worst.
Anyway.
Greetings, citizens of Earth. Welcome to the Accelerativ Thrust podcast. I'm Dan.
And I'm Erik.
And today we're going to be talking about records and heavy metal singers.
Yeah.
and stuff like that. It's all going to be great. But before we talk about any of it, we have to talk about the fact that we are on Spotify and Transistor and Content Made Right and Google and Amazon and YouTube, all to listen to. And also, you can always contact us on our Facebook or Instagram. Just type Accelerativ Thrust in the search engine, and I'm sure you'll find us. Both pages, in fact, will come up, I'm sure. If not both pages, then I bet some place where you can listen to our podcast, which it would be kind of weird if that is the first time that you find it, because then the whole thing about trying to look for us to comment or contact us, it wouldn't even make any sense because you've never heard us anyway.
Right. If you're hearing this podcast now, go ahead and Google us to find out how you can hear this podcast.
Yeah. If you've never heard this before. Or now, even if you haven't heard it now. But yeah, if you're in a local band and you would like us to review your stuff or interview us or interview you, I mean, I don't know.
You can interview us. I'm an open book.
You can interview us. That might be interesting if one of our guests just interviewed us.
No, we share enough of our lives on this show.
That's true. Yeah. You don't need to hear any more, people. I'm sorry.
Yeah, if you don't know us by now, then
I guess you never will.
I guess you never will. Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, feel free to comment, message us, let us know how we're doing or what we're doing wrong, what we're doing right. Or just say hi, send one of those emojis. I like those every now and then.
Yeah, I like emojis.
I've noticed that we're both like pretty big fans in our texts of the thumbs up emoji.
I use a lot of I don't know how to say it, buffering text talk, like a lot of exclamation points, a lot of whelps, and a lot of emojis. I don't want anyone to misconstrue the things I'm saying. So I would never say like, "Oh, cool, see you there." I mean, that would be insane. I'd have to say, "Sweet!" exclamation
right.
See you there, double exclamation point, thumbs up. Because then people know I'm truly stoked.
Right. Yeah.
So
I mean,
I don't know.
You took the time to seek out an emoji.
Yeah.
Nobody does that when they're not excited.
Yeah.
About something.
And if I'm really excited, I'll use the eggplant.
Hey, did you know that Sting considers himself a heavy metal singer? Yeah, no, I'm serious. It's in the news.
Wow.
He said, I'm a heavy metal singer, but I have a little more melody. Sting has one of those recognizable upper register voices in rock music, but no one has ever called him a heavy metal singer. It just so happens that the former Police frontman has dubbed himself as such. So I have something to say about this, actually.
Okay.
It's funny that he says that because I was actually listening to Brave New World by Iron Maiden recently.
Mm-hmm.
And dude, there were a few times where he hit these registers in his vocals that I was like, wow, this almost sounds like Sting. So the real question is Sting maybe really a heavy metal singer that is in disguise playing in a heavy metal band?
Well, here's the thing, though, is like you can't just be a thing without being the thing. You know, I mean, he could say, I could be a heavy metal singer. He can say, I am as good as any other heavy metal singer. All that might be true, whatever. But he is not a heavy metal singer. He's not in a heavy metal band. He doesn't sing heavy metal. So I don't even understand how you can say that. You know?
Yeah, I don't either. And you know what? This is another part. This part pisses me off right here, actually. He says, to get above the noise of the band, you need that register. You can't be a baritone in a rock band. What? Has this guy even heard Glenn Danzig?
Wow.
Yeah, isn't that like okay, you know what? I discredit anything that Sting has said from this point.
So not only does he consider himself a heavy metal singer, even though he doesn't sing heavy metal, he also thinks that he knows what makes a good heavy metal singer or what makes one shitty.
Yeah.
Like it's up to him. Who gives a shit what Sting has to say?
That's very true. I mean,
who
it's
cares?
A message in a bottle is so heavy, let me tell you.
Oh,
yeah, that's pretty.
Man, might as well be walking on the moon, that guy.
Yeah, he might as well be walking on the moon.
Yep.
And not standing.
He's not the king of pain. He's the king of bullshit.
And I'd rather him not stand so close to me.
Yeah. Man.
Get away, Sting. Ugh.
Man, I hate it when older people tell people what's good and bad and that they can do this and that. It's like, Sting, if you haven't had enough success in your life, if you haven't done enough that you still think you're relevant and have to shit all over everything else, like just go away. Oh my God.
Wow, that got you really fired up.
I'm just sick of listening to these old ass men talking about shit, having opinions on everything that happens. Oh my God.
Yeah, that's true. It is really like
just get over it.
Yeah.
Learn golf or something. You're not relevant. No one gives a shit about you or your music. It doesn't matter.
I mean, even Alice Cooper has the decency to be a professional golfer in his off time. So, you know, it's like, come on, man. And the dude is the freaking, you know, he practically invented shock rock, you know?
Yeah.
Or whatever you want to call it. But you know, one thing.
See, if you know what you're talking about, that's fine. If Alice Cooper said, you know, Ghost Main's makeup is stupid, I'd be like, I don't know. Yeah, Alice Cooper knows shit. That's cool. He kind of helped invent horror music. He can talk about that.
You know, it would be really funny is if Alice Cooper was like, you know, I'm actually a horrorcore rapper if you think about it.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's what it would be like. Except it does make more sense for Alice Cooper to think he's a horrorcore rapper than Sting to think he's a
heavy metal. That's true.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I've never been so mad at Sting in my life.
Yeah, I know. It's like you never thought you would care enough.
Nope, I didn't.
I mean, honestly, I like some Police songs, but this is ridiculous.
I used to.
Yeah.
Until right now.
All changed now.
I'm over it. I am over Sting.
I wonder how Sting would feel about people who drive motorized coolers without licenses.
Hell, he probably is a professional one.
Yeah, I mean,
he doesn't own one, but he's the best one that ever existed.
So,
okay, I'll let it go.
In Australia, the Swan Hill police, they said officers stopped a 25-year-old man who was spotted driving a motorized cooler on a sidewalk.
Mm-hmm.
So a photo posted to the Facebook shows this blue cooler, and it's hilarious. It's clearly just something that somebody made. But yeah, he actually had to have a license to drive this thing on the sidewalk. It all it is like there's like a motor in the back of this scooter, and then his seat is a cooler.
Yeah, I've seen those at the tailgates.
Yeah. So I didn't realize you had to. I mean, they were that.
Do they really even issue licenses for that?
I mean, that's what I was thinking. Yeah, I need a motorized cooler license.
I mean, I don't know. That seems odd.
Sting, also, did you know that Sting is really a heavy metal singer?
Did you know that he's also on the Swan Hill Police?
Yeah.
Sting says he's a real police officer because he was in a band called the Police.
Do you you sing baritone?
Yeah.
If you do, then you can't be a heavy metal singer.
Nope. Can't sing rock and roll with baritone voice.
Iggy Pop? Come on, man. I mean, Iggy Pop, obviously the Stooges are not metal, but they're heavier than anything.
Well,
Sting is
goddamn O negative is.
Yeah, there you go. Typo goddamn negative. Ooh, I like that name change. Typo goddamn negative. You know, you throw goddamn into anything, it makes it sound better. Like, for example, this overdue goddamn book returned to the goddamn Idaho goddamn library after 110 goddamn years. A Boise, Idaho library. Oh, Boise's the hometown of Built to Spill.
Oh,
I wonder if they had something to do with this. So an Idaho library is hailing the return of an overdue book that was checked out from the library 110 years ago on November 8th, 1911.
Oof. Wow. What was the book?
It doesn't say what it was. All it says is that officials said the book was returned anonymously, and the library does not have records of the library's checkout history. So the whereabouts for the past 110 years are likely to remain a mystery. That's weird.
Maybe, I bet it was The Stand by Stephen King.
Yeah.
That took me 100 years to read.
I mean, Stephen King has to be involved in it somehow, right?
Yeah.
I mean, come on, dude.
Yeah.
Stephen King, Sting King.
Kephen Sting.
Kephen Sting.
They really didn't say what the book was?
No, yeah, it doesn't mention anything in this article so I don't know what it is. I wonder if it was like, wouldn't it be great if it was like history for dummies or something? Yeah.
Like, the history of the Boise, Idaho library.
Boy, yeah, it's like this talking about, wouldn't it be funny if it was like a something about the music scene 110 years ago in Boise, Idaho?
Yeah. All the hipsters
from
it would be the same exact articles. It'd be like some fool with round wireframe glasses showed up and played a banjo.
Yeah. Whoa. And here's Mr. Bon Billy playing at a coffee shop, some coffee shop in downtown Boise.
Yeah. Nothing's changed
at all.
Especially the facial hair.
Yeah, yes. The facial hair is definitely there for sure. Sure. Well, dude, you know what we should talk about now?
What's that?
Music.
Okay, I got to get in the right mindset. That Sting thing it really threw me off my game.
Well, I didn't figure out what you were referencing when you were talking about an eggplant. So really, we're both off our game right now, Erik.
Yeah. I was talking about tantric eggplanting.
Like the heavy metal band Tantric?
No, Sting is into tantric sex.
Oh, okay. So that was really what you were talking about, was the Eggplant and the Police.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I was talking about the time I showed the police my eggplant.
Okay.
And I got thrown in jail. Yeah. So records. I'll start. I picked a record called Soul Glo, which is a reference to, I think, Coming to America, if I'm not wrong. Yeah.
That's immediately.
Yeah.
Immediately, that's what I thought.
Yeah. It's kind of like a hair product, Soul Glo. This record is called The N Word in Me Is Me. Came out in 2019. It's hard to categorize this. I loved it though. Like really was blown away by it and listened to it a number of times and was it's rare for me to find something this sort of like instant that I love it. I didn't even have to think about it. From the first note, I was like, yes, I've been waiting for this sound. So it is really aggressive, like really, really aggressive. I think it comes through the music completely. I don't think it's lost in translation at all. This is really aggressive, energetic, and pretty eclectic overall. For the most part, I would say that to me, it sounded like pretty straight sort of D beat, discharge kind of hardcore, maybe a little bit like MDC, Millions of Dead Cops, as far as the vocal delivery and things like that. But yeah, really kind of classic D beat hardcore sound, but then also some electronic stuff, even some hip hop at moments. And so really it ended up basically sounding like a cross between Saul Williams and Discharge. I think that Saul Williams has a song called Telegraph that really kind of, which samples a Bad Brain song. And so that song reminded me a lot of what I heard on this. But yeah, hip hop, noise, post hardcore, really aggressive, like screaming. The vocal delivery is just killer. The playing is killer too. The production, I just really love the entire attitude of the whole thing. Everything about it from start to finish was a super enjoyable record for me to listen to. Yeah, I don't have a ton to say about it just because I liked everything about it from beginning to end. So it's like the more you like something, sometimes the harder it is to keep going into what makes it super good, because it's just sort of the complete package. If you want interesting, aggressive, hardcore that also has some melody and also moves and kind of gets you pumped up and into it, then I think this Soul Glo record is pretty sweet. What do you think, Dan?
Man, I got to say, this is probably one of my favorite records that you've ever picked, Erik, on this podcast. I listened to this so many times.
Yeah.
It's not what I expected.
Mm-hmm.
Like you said, really abrasive, like almost like blood curdling in its presentation. It's insane. Yeah, I definitely hear the MDC comparisons. But I also hear a lot of Bad Brains going on,
sure.
like a lot. And but then there are times when it starts to incorporate like electronics, and in a similar way, but way different than the Turnstile record that I picked last week, where the electronic parts are usually very short and almost sound sporadic throughout. But like, I mean, it almost just pushes on the edge of like digital hardcore, like Atari totally. Teenage Riot. And then there's like some trap beats that kind of get thrown in, like these like weird sort of trap beats, and even some rapping, where I think the guy who was rapping reminded me, the register he was rapping in reminded me of like a cross between Earl Sweatshirt and MC Ride from Death Grips.
Yeah. Right.
And yeah, definitely. And then also I hear a lot of maybe like Public Enemy influence. Even some of it gets as like just like out there as like The Locust or something. Like when it kind of mixes, like it almost becomes like grindcore in its execution at times. I think the guitar playing is beautiful. It's some of the most like just abrasive. It's this really piercing guitar tone that just doesn't really like, it doesn't let up at all. It doesn't give you a break. I mean, I don't think I've ever really heard a more angry yet very justified aggression on a record.
Right.
Just extremely well put together. Like it's not in any way like a revivalist hardcore record at all. It's a very forward thinking. And that's what I love about it. Just, yeah, excellent. And I also love the fact that they named the band after a product on Coming to America, because I got to tell you that I love Coming to America. That's such a funny movie.
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny that you compared it to Turnstile, because I never even thought about it, that if you listened to the reviews and the descriptions of those two records, they might sound really like we're talking about similar music.
Right.
And we're absolutely not.
No, not at all. It's
like the post-hardcore element of it that I mentioned is a way different kind of post-hardcore. When you mentioned Turnstile, I was like, oh shit, this probably sounds just like what we talked about with that. But no, it's completely different.
It's way more aggressive than Turnstile, than the Glow On album. But you can tell that both bands are from the hardcore scene and are very interested in pushing the genres forward in different ways.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is fantastic. Yeah, that excellent pick there, Erik.
Sweet.
Loved it. All right. So I'm not sure if many people can say the same thing about my pick necessarily. But this is more of a curiosity than, I do like this record actually quite a bit as what it is, which is a very, very strange piece of pop culture history. So I'm going to kind of give a backstory on this for people who don't know who this person may be. Do you know who Farrah Abraham is?
I did research, because when I started this, I had to try to understand what was happening. So exactly. Yeah, now I know who Farrah Abraham is.
Okay, so I'm going to kind of just give a brief, like, sort of description of that for the people who may not know who this is, because I feel like she is somebody who was very well known in pop culture at a very specific period of time, and she's fallen off the radar pretty hard. She's not really, I guess, quote unquote, relevant in the tabloids anymore, but she was actually born in Omaha, but raised in Council Bluffs, Iowa, interestingly enough. In 2009, she was cast on MTV 16 and Pregnant. Later that year, the spinoff series Teen Mom. This album is called My Teenage Dream Ended, and it's under her name, Farrah Abraham. And it's also the title of a book that she wrote that same year. Now, I'm going to say this. The media, at least at the time that she was kind of had, I guess, more of a celebrity status, tended to really paint her in a very negative light. She has clearly, if you look at pictures of her then versus now, she had a lot of plastic surgery done. She was also in a sex tape with James Dean. And I don't know, on the show, it seems like her and her mom had a lot of narcissistic tendencies towards each other. I have to admit that I have actually kind of seen a little bit of like Teen Mom and 16 and Pregnant, enough to know and remember who Farrah Abraham is, because of pretty much all of the people who were on that show. Even if you never watched that show, it was really easy to know who she was at that time, because she just couldn't keep away from the news. But I mean, really, at the end of the day, all of the celebrity stuff is pretty neither here nor there. It really doesn't matter. But that was just more to kind of give a background, to kind of give some sort of like reference point to why this record is so kind of just strange and really out of nowhere. So it came out in 2012 and is eerily, almost prophetically, it's creepy how ahead of its time it kind of was. It's really bizarre and off. And I mean, it's honestly like a train wreck. So the backstory of the album is interesting as well. Again, I kind of almost feel like with this record, the story of why this exists is maybe even more interesting than the record itself, which I do find the record itself interesting as well. So the whole thing was inspired by the song Cinema by Benny Benassi. Are you familiar with that song at all, Erik?
No.
I'm not either. But she apparently recorded the songs to a click track on her iPhone, having never heard the music.
Mm-hmm.
And then the production was handled by a producer by the name of Frederick M. Cuevas. I could be pronouncing that wrong, but he goes by FRDRK, all capitalized. And so, yeah, if I'm reading the information correctly, she recorded these vocals on an iPhone before she even heard the music. And then I guess it was recorded on GarageBand, which is a very interesting and very left field approach, considering, number one, the history of celebrities turned like pop singer approach albums. Like, usually they really try to train themselves in like a studio or something. It sort of just seemed like she wasn't interested in that, maybe. I'm not really sure, but it definitely sounds like it was kind of recorded spontaneously like that. But what's really weird about it is, maybe because of its inconsistencies and weirdness, it almost became like a stepping stone. I could almost hear this as like a stepping stone for hyperpop, such as 100 gecs and artists like that. And in fact, the vocal approach of being like really sort of off kilter and insanely pitch shifted and all this stuff, and clearly not really caring how you sound. I mean, maybe that's not true. Maybe she did kind of care, or I'm not suggesting that 100 gecs you don't have any musical talent, but it's really off kilter vocals. And there's so much auto tune and, like, I don't know, maybe reverb drenched on the vocals, and it's so incredibly processed that it's ridiculous. It just sounds so alien and non-human. Yet the thing that really interests me about it is the content, because it sounds like, this is going to sound really weird, and I never thought I would say anything associated with Farrah Abraham about this. It might be one of the most honest expressions I've ever really heard, in a weird sort of way. And, make of it what you will, because it really does sound like she's examining her life through these lyrics in a weird sort of way at that time. I don't know. Because there's a lot of references to, like, I know that her the father of her child died, and she does come off as, it seems like she definitely comes off as privileged and whiny and stuff. At least that's what the cameras seem to kind of portray her as. And there's definitely a little bit of that, I think, on this record as well. But the sound is really just interesting to me, and it's really off kilter, and it's very much like you said you kind of had to figure out what's kind of going on. That's sort of this album in a nutshell. I think it sounds like a combination of 100 gecs at times, almost like Crystal Castles and Ladytron and like Skrillex, but not it. I don't know. There's something really off about it. But I do got to say that this is, Erik, this is the most important discovery of my life. I mean, I shit you not. And it probably shouldn't be, but I don't know. I feel like everyone should check this record out at least once in their lives. But I hereby officially announce that I am done listening to music from now on, Erik.
Okay.
I think you're going to need to just find a new co-host. This is it for me, dude.
I get that. I really do.
So yeah. What did you think, Erik? Was this the most important discovery of your life?
Well, I didn't discover it. You picked it. I don't want to get blamed for this.
Well, yeah, but you did kind of discover it after I told you about it.
Well,
why don't we go ahead and just say you discovered it instead of me?
Well, that's not true. I don't.
Yeah, but
I don't want to be known as the guy who discovered this.
Little white lie.
Actually, though, this has an underground following.
Yes.
A lot of people do listen to this. Over the holiday, I talked to my nephew Owen, and I said, "Hey, have you ever listened to this record?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, that's insane." And I was like, "Wow, cool." So it is known as, sort of this anomaly, this sort of strange record that exists. So I think that's cool, because yeah, otherwise I know I would have never heard this, Dan, if you
Same
wouldn't have
here.
picked it.
Dude, I just discovered this a week ago because I was reading actually some blog or something about they were talking about outsider music, and somebody talked about the disturbing record that Farrah Abraham put out.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay. And then I thought to myself, when I saw the cover, My Teenage Dream Ended, I immediately just dismissed it. Okay.
Yeah. The
bullshit,
cover is amazing.
It's extremely
it's terrifyingly bad.
It's the worst. And it made me not be interested until somebody compared it to Witch House. And I was like, what? No way. And then I listened to it. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, tell me that we're not living in the Matrix without.
Well, another sci-fi movie that comes to mind. I guess, yeah, I'll just start my my review of this.
Sorry for
not at all. Erik. You've seen The Fifth Element, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, the song that the blue lady sings.
Oh my God.
It's like when you hear it in the movie, you think, wow, this is what future music might sound like, but no one would ever listen to this because it's insane. That's how this feels to me. It is one of the strangest records I have ever heard in my life. I kind of feel like this is what future music will sound like. The first time I put it on, I hated it. I mean, beyond hated it. I thought it was psychotic nonsense. I thought it was like absolute bullshit. And the thing about it is, I didn't come away from it upon a second listen thinking differently, but I think the result is different than what I originally thought. I don't think the intent is different. I think the intent is still someone who truly doesn't understand music on any level making a record. That's what I think. And I think that the proof is kind of in the pudding, whereas it's auto-tuned, right? But it's not auto-tuned to anything. Generally, auto-tune exists to put someone into the right key for the song. That's the whole point. But not with this. This is just auto-tuned to nothing. You can tell that it's not musical. But because of that, it becomes outsider. It's like this idea of outsider. It's like it's hard when you know the person literally doesn't have any understanding of what they're doing. They just have a drive and a way of creating it somehow. It's very difficult because I don't like it. But when I put it on, and especially when I put it on in headphones, I was like, this is kind of sick. It might be super sweet, or it might be just terrible. I don't know. It really goes for it. Whatever it is, it really goes for it. And I guess I appreciate that. But yeah, as far as the music itself, it's like kind of like dubstep, sort of, with some sort of drippy kind of Zan rap elements to it. I mean, but again, this is 2012, so that's pretty forward thinking. As far as the way the songs work, it did remind me a lot of 100 Gex, but it also reminded me of See Me Rollin' by Martin Rev from Suicide, if you ever listen to that record. But yes, very outsider and very strange. And so I think those two could be like sister albums. I think you could listen to, if you're into See Me Rollin', which I'm sure not a lot of people are, but if that's one of the records you like in this world, you'll probably sort of dig this record. But I don't know. I'm at a loss. For the first time, I literally don't know what to say about it. If I discovered this in like a bargain bin at Half Price Books or something and put it in my car, I would think that I had just discovered something quite amazing. Looking at the cover, imagining hearing it for the first time, I don't know. But yeah, having someone else say, hey, you should check this out makes it sort of a different experience. It's like, oh, well, this is now kind of ironic, you know? And so I don't know. I wish I had more to say about it, but I don't understand any element of this music.
I love the fact that I caught you off guard with one of my picks.
Yeah,
I have to, I have to admit, Erik, I never thought it would be possible. However, I gotta, to your point about her not understanding anything about music, which is clearly the case. I wonder if she just didn't care. And that would make kind of a difference in my eyes if she thought that she was actually making masterful songs with this. It would change my view on what I think is kind of interesting about this record, or at least kind of cool about this record, because if she did this, if her thing was, okay, I'm just going to sort of like, they sounded like psychotic diary entries, the lyrics, basically.
Yeah.
If I'm going to just sort of like put myself out there a little bit through lyrics, I am just going to do it in this unconventional as hell way. And then the producer can just deal with the music. I don't really care how the music turns out. And I think ultimately that's probably what happened, is the producer probably just heard her ramblings through her phone and was like, okay, I can make something very weird and interesting with this, but that's what it's going to be. And then I would assume that she had the final approval of this, since it was her name being used on it. So think. I kind of think that one of the cool things about it is the fact that we're hearing something from somebody who doesn't know shit about music or care about music, because you could say the same thing about, and I almost think that this is like an electronic version of Jandek or something. Like, have you ever heard Jandek?
No, I haven't.
Jandek was this outsider musician that I think he released like 65 albums.
Wow.
And maybe a total of like 2.5 albums worth of those 65 albums are actually have anything good on it. Because it's literally, it sounded like he would just pick up any instrument, not even bother to tune it, and just make something out of it. And that's almost kind of what this is like. I would almost even say Daniel Johnston to a certain extent. I think the big difference is that Daniel Johnston did actually have an understanding of melody. And even though his stuff sounded very out there, I could almost see like some of the stuff that Bruce Hack did with electronic music being almost a precursor to something like this. But at the end of the day, I got to ask you 2 questions here, Erik.
Okay. Do
you actually see where I can honestly say this is kind of like the first hyper pop record?
For sure.
Okay. So that's number 1. And number 2, do you actually agree with me in any way whatsoever that it sounds like she's being pretty sincere, regardless of how crazy it sounds, maybe, or just out there, that she's being sincere with those lyrics?
Yeah, totally. I think that, it's uncomfortably biographical.
And
it's I mean, I don't want to say it's cringe, because it's like honest, you know? And so, but it is like just really, really honest. Like,
and it's one of those things that I think it was brave as hell for her to put a record out like this in 2012 amid she already had a disadvantage. She was looked at as like the next, like, I don't know, Miley Cyrus or somebody, but doomed to fail because the press already hated her. She was already looked down negatively. And so, of course, everyone, including, and I might have heard back in 2012 she was doing a record. And I'm sure my response was probably, I rolled my eyes. Oh, I'm never going to check that shit out. You know what I mean? So she already had that disadvantage. And in 2012, for her to put something out like this, now at the time, can you imagine the scrutiny that this probably was under in 2012.
Yeah, but also deserved to be.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
I mean, a regular ass person that works for like Time Magazine or something reviewing this album, like, what else could they have said besides this is
that? No, it's very
garbage?
true. But at the same time, though, it little did that person working for Time Magazine know that this was actually pioneering in a
for sure,
very weird sort of way. And also, it still doesn't take away from the fact that it was brave, because
that's true.
She could have just totally like went the Miley Cyrus, and that's not to take anything. Miley Cyrus is very talented. So I'm just saying she could have gone the regular pop singer route and probably failed even worse at that. You know what I mean? Because now what's happening is there's a bunch of underground blogs that are hailing this as a masterpiece. And she would have not been, there would have been nothing, no interest at all if it would have just sounded like Avril Lavigne or something, you know?
Right.
But again, it's not to take away from that music, because like I said, Miley Cyrus and Avril Lavigne and stuff like that is all very interesting. But
you never know. It's like, you know, all those people that gave bad reviews and things like that. It reminds me of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, actually.
Yeah.
Like when it came out and like Roger Ebert said it was trash. A lot of people said it was garbage. It was poorly made, poorly filmed, just disgusting, blah, blah, blah. And then, you know, it kind of went on to influence pretty much everything in a certain genre that came after. So like, it's similar in that sense. It's like, did they set out to make a new kind of horror movie? I don't know, maybe, but chances are they just worked within the confines of what they had and with the limitations that they had, and they still wanted to tell their story. So, you know, kind of similar in my mind that, I don't know. This might be what all future music sounds like, though.
That's might be.
We should actually pioneer a hyper podcast. And we should just start auto-shift everything. Ladies and gentlemen, we're pioneers. Don't you forget that.
So the local pick comes from, now I was talking to Erik because I could be saying his name wrong, but what did you say that you thought it was, Erik? Because I think you were more right.
Like Aubs.
Aubs. That's what I thought. Yeah, Aubs. So I think his name is Aubs. If I'm saying that wrong, I apologize. So this is a record from Rock Island. Aubs calls himself a spoken word artist influenced by neo soul, lo-fi, and battle rap and hip hop aesthetics from Rock Island. The name of this album is In It, Not Of It, or it's abbreviated IINOI. And it's a really well done, I think, conscious rap record with a very great lyrical content. I actually want to get into more like local area rappers, because I know they're out there. I'm just not familiar with them enough. And I'd like to hear more. And this record just confirmed that. There's some really cool interludes where he's apparently having conversations with people. There definitely is some political content going on, but overall, it's just a really smooth sounding. The beats are just really, really well done and really well produced, and a beast on the mic, as they say. And he's just a really great rapper. And it brings joy knowing that this exists in somewhere like Rock Island, because I know there's rap music everywhere. I just never hear about it. And I would just love to hear more from it in the local sector, if you will. To me, it really sounds like a culmination of a lot of things. I would definitely say that if you're a fan of old school conscious rap like Diggable Planets, Tribe Called Quest, De La Soul, I think you could definitely find some stuff here. But I also hear a lot of like Kendrick Lamar in this, Mr. Liff, even Earl Sweatshirt, Joey Badass, Mos Def, all kinds of things. Ultimately, though, Aubs has his own really, really cool, fresh style. Some really great lyrics. Like I said, there's this one line that he said on the track Gods, I loosen up hate because love is so tight. I just thought that was really, really awesome. And I think it was very representative of what the record was going for, because I really got this aura of sort of self-discovery and positivity, or at least trying to look to the positive side, and also making some really intelligent commentary on kind of what's going on in culture. And it's just really a rewarding listen for me. I really, really enjoyed it. And again, if you're a fan of all of that stuff, I think you could definitely find something in this. And it's just so awesome that rap this good exists within this community around here. What did you think, Erik?
I enjoyed it a lot. I'm not as well versed in hip hop as you, Dan, which we have covered a lot on here. But I'm listening to more and more all the time. So I could tell that this was sort of a conscious, positive rap, like De La Soul and Native Tongue kind of things. And
right.
So I heard a lot of that. The production reflected that. A lot of jazzy samples reminded me of things like Diggable Planets, soulful samples. The interludes definitely kind of let you know what's happening in the record, like what they're trying to say in the record. The lyrics are solid. The rapping is really great, like you said, pretty much through and through. I really liked all the guest MCs on there too, especially Gabby, I think was the rapper's name. Kind of reminded me of sort of like I don't know, like Onyx almost. Like it had a real edgy sound to it, or like Grave Diggers or something like that. And it's funny because straight from the get-go, the first like interlude part of the record kind of talks about trying to be positive and trying to be above it and stay above it and stuff. And maybe this is just me. I have a way of connecting things and making stories when they're not actually there or whatever. But to me, this record, it felt like there was a bit of a story arc through the record. And to me, it feels like someone basically trying to stay positive and stay centered and stay above it all, but constantly having outside stressors and societal stress and feelings of isolation and being introverted and being afraid of being around people and all this stuff that we sort of felt, in the past couple of years, especially with COVID and with a lot of the civil unrest and issues with the police and things like that. And to me, it definitely just feels very much like someone trying to hold on to this positivity. And as the record goes on, it starts to kind of crack a little bit, and by the time we do get to the song with Gabby on it that I was talking about, it's like the cracks are showing real hard in this positive sort of humor, and so, and like I said, maybe I'm just making that up, but that's the way it moves. If you compare the first track to the last track, we're in a much different place. And so I really enjoyed that aspect of it. So
well, I mean, there's also a track followed by an interlude, "Cause We Black," and then "When You're a Black Kid." And so it obviously touches on that struggle.
For sure.
And it's, I also have to mention, because I forgot to actually even mention this, because you mentioned the Gabby guest spot, but there were a couple of guests on this record that I was really into. Poor Bill.
Poor Bill's awesome.
And I love the name of that track, Little Uzi Introvert.
Yeah.
That is so funny.
Yeah.
So awesome.
Yeah.
But then my favorite feature on this, because Gabby was sick, I'll definitely give you that for sure. And so was John Fletch. But my favorite was actually the last track, Peace, with Drowned Hero. Drowned Hero was sick, man.
Yeah.
I loved, he had this almost like, he almost reminded me of like a combination of Pasta News from De La Soul and like Old Dirty Bastard or something. Like there was something really, really colorful about that voice that he has. And it added, it totally, I see what you're saying, where the record was kind of, as it kind of got darker as it went on, and like got even more like, okay, I'm really just boiling under pressure here. And then the last track is called Peace. Well, no, that's actually not the last track. The last track, Introverted Outro. But Peace is like the second to last track with Drowned Hero. And so you can definitely, it definitely does have that aura of trying to make peace with yourself, but also being aware of your surroundings. I think you definitely hit it on the head with that one.
Yeah. It made it a really enjoyable listen. I listened to it twice. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. Good pick.
Yeah, no, it was fantastic. And I'm, like I said, man, I'm so glad to hear that hip hop around these areas, because you don't really hear much about it. And I also like the fact that it seems to exist quite a bit in the DIY scene, in the same way that like punk or hardcore or electronic music around here exists. It kind of seems like, because I hear about these rappers oftentimes playing with indie bands or whatever around this area. And I just think that's really cool. Listeners, if you know of any really good hip hop that we should listen to, that we should, I don't know, we don't even necessarily have to review it or whatever, but just any good hip hop, let us know, man, because I would love to hear more.
For sure. Yeah. Good call.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
so speaking of local, that brings us to the local shows.
Yeah. We have a few more than last week. Not a billion or anything. So let's just get into the weekend. I think that's all we have really is weekend shows. So we have on Friday, December 3rd, at the Raccoon Motel, we're going to have Blood Incantation, Primitive Man, and Everlasting Light.
Oh my gosh, that sounds like a monster of a show.
I know. And y'all got some choices to make, unless I don't know. Anyway, that is at the Raccoon Motel. And that's brought to you by Wake Brewing, and Ragged Records is presenting that. So that's going to be a killer show. But there's another killer show, same exact night. River City Collective presents at the Village Theater in Davenport, Modern Life is War, Desperate Acts, Closet Witch, Spectral Snake, which I will be playing with, not to sway your vote or anything, and God War. So that's going to be a sick show as well. I do know the Modern Life show is probably getting on the verge of selling out. So
I think it already is.
Well,
I could be the minister of disinformation, but I do think it is.
I knew we were getting low on tickets. So check River City Collective, check the event on Facebook to see if it is sold out or not. So yeah, Saturday, let's see what we got. We have at the Octopus in Cedar Falls, Tracy Von Crypt, Soul True, 404, and Phoenix Curse. I believe all those are sort of like heavy metal, if not sort of like horror metal. I think Tracy Von Crypt is horror metal.
Except Soul True. Soul True is like R&B.
Oh, okay. So kind of a mixed bag there, it sounds like. That'll be at the Octopus. At XBK Live, Ryan O'Ryan and the Bowling Green Revival, with Jordan Sellergren. And I really like what Jordan Sellergren does. So I will always mention when she is playing. So That should be cool. And I'm going to tell you guys about something that I usually wouldn't, and that is a DJ set. But the reason I'm bringing it up is it's going to be Chris Wearsama, who puts on the Feed Me Weird Things series of shows. He also used to be in Loa. He's currently in Death Bag with Gabby Vanek. So I think that would be really sick. It's going to be at Roz Talks. I can pretty much guarantee you're not going to hear another DJ set like this probably ever. Chris listens to some really cool stuff, and I'd be excited to see what he plays. So other than that, though, that's everything I personally could come up with this weekend. So
Good.
I don't know, though, if you can't find something in there, I don't know. I mean, that's some good stuff. So
yeah, there's a lot of really good choices. One thing that I actually want to bring up, and this is kind of an unfortunate note. This actually just came to mind. This kind of has to do with local music, so I'm going to go ahead and say it. I don't know if you heard Erik, and I'm not sure what your history is with this band, but the lead singer of Planes Mistaken for Stars, Jared Donnell, he passed away, I believe, the night before Thanksgiving. Were you familiar with Planes Mistaken for Stars,
no,
Erik?
I wasn't.
Okay. So Planes Mistaken for Stars, for those of you who may not be familiar, were a band that actually originated in Peoria, Illinois. And they actually played, I believe it was their second or third show ever in our hometown of Muscatine, Erik.
Wow.
This was in like 97. It was the first time that I can think of that outside bands from farther away than, I don't know, Davenport had ever come to Muscatine. And it was an old acquaintance of ours, Fran Cadena, who used to front this band called PCU, actually got them and a couple of other bands from the Peoria area.
Cool.
I unfortunately didn't actually make it to the show. However, I remember Brooks, who you're going to be playing with in Spectral Snake, and a bunch of people that did go to the show say that they played music that they had never heard before.
Wow.
And it was very, very forward-thinking music for like 1998. They had a very emo-ish sort of sound, but it was very rough and rugged. And his voice was just so, I don't know, very, very like growly. Like it definitely, they did not sound like any other band. I saw this band several times throughout the years. I even met the guy like once way back in like 2001. And he actually, Planes Mistaken for Stars were playing with another long lost local sort of, I guess, icon at this point, for lack of a better way to describe it, Matt Davis, who we reviewed the Brazil tape on a while back, a few episodes ago. But Brazil actually played on the same bill as Planes Mistaken for Stars in this apartment in Cedar Rapids. And I used to love Planes Mistaken for Stars. I haven't listened to him in a while, but when I saw that he passed away, I guess following esophageal cancer, it kind of just inspired me to kind of go back and revisit Planes Mistaken for Stars. And I'll never forget how intense their live performances were. They affected me very similarly to Matt Davis, like 10 Grand and Brazil. And they were also heavily connected, those two.
Wow.
I know that they used to play shows together a lot. So I didn't know them personally, but they are from Peoria, Illinois, which isn't that far away.
Right.
So I kind of consider them sort of a sort of local-ish, if you will, but he was only 44 years old, man. That's
too bad.
That's just way too bad. So I just want to say RIP to Jared, and I want to thank Planes Mistaken for Stars for inspiring me. So
nice.
And I would encourage anybody who hasn't listened to Planes Mistaken for Stars, listen to their self-titled debut album, their EP Knife in the Marathon, and their first full-length album called Fuck with Fire. all of them are just fire.
Nice.
So yeah,
Cool. I'll check it out too. Yeah.
I just kind of wanted to say that.
Nice.
So next week we're going to have a special guest.
Yeah.
And that special guest is
Dolly Speary.
Oh my gosh, that
From
sounds like
Psyops.
it's going to be
And
fantastic.
Pokey Records.
And you all know about Pokey Records because we told you all about it.
Because we told you.
We told you.
That's
and
right.
I'll tell you what, if you haven't gone and listened to all 3 of those tapes, then you should still go listen.
Yep.
To them.
Pokey's Records on Bandcamp. But we'll mention that again next time. All right. That's got to be it. You ready?
It's got to be, dude. I'm having enchiladas for dinner tonight.
Dang, I'm having
Yeah,
kind of a
what you're
bim
making?
bim bap sort of thing.
Oh, bimbap. Yeah, that stuff's good.
Yeah.
I first time I ever had it was a couple of years ago, and I like it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good stuff.
We make it with tempeh. Pretty good.
That sounds good. Sounds really good.
All right.
So enjoy your tempeh.
Yeah. Enjoy your enchiladas.
I will, and we will be talking to Dolly. Do not miss it next week.
Yeah. Damn it.
All right. Have a good
All right. I'm just sick of listening to these old ass men talking about shit, having opinions on everything that happens. Oh my God.
Yeah.